Whoa. Whoa. That might have been a little bit too much if this is our first time meeting. Sorry about that. Dreadfully sorry. Though I am not super in tune with social customs. I am the Antichrist, bit of a demigod in my own right, my father being Satan, so cut me a little bit of slack. That being said, I was put on this earth to do diabolical things. I feel like burping right at the jump of a YouTube video, it could be classified as such, and also so could talking about horror movies, and that's what I do here. That's my main purpose. That's what I'm doing today, and if you're into that, if you like reviews, if you like rankings, if you like deep dives, just all things horror, then click subscribe. Also click the like button and the notification bell, that way you never miss the next video. I promise I will not open the next one with a giant burp. How's that? Today I can't dilly nor dally because I have 70 horror releases to talk about with you all. 70! And then also I just posted my ranking of non-horror films of 2024 over on my second channel, of which there were 42 films. So in total, I watched 112 new releases of 2024, and I'm going to be catching up on even more of them this month as we lead up to the Oscar season. But anyway, the first two movies I put at number 69 and 70 are actually short films that I was involved in. The first one being Darby After Dark. This one came out in October and it starred little old me. I did a little bit of voice acting and I show up just right at the very end. It premiered at a festival, but it's also available on YouTube right now, so check it out. And then also the other one I want to shout out is my own personal short film. I wrote, directed, produced it, and I acted in it. It's called Liked, and I'm so stoked to give it a public release this year. It is technically a 2024 film because it premiered at a festival in October, but you guys are going to be able to see it very soon, so just wanted to give it a little shout out, little reminder. But it is time to get into some of the worst of the year as we start at number 68. Now, the bottom 4 films on my list, 65 through 68, I actually gave each of these 1.5 stars on Letterboxd. I tried to rank basically based on what my star ratings were, and at dead last, we have a movie called The Forest Hills, and this earned its spot here not just for the content of the film, which was sadly Shelley Duvall's last feature film that she would ever star in. I will not specify the individual that sent me a screener link, but I wasn't a screener link, so I saw it earlier than most, I guess. But this one had different premieres at festivals, and then the release seemed super messy, and then I let you guys know like several months ago that I was retracting my review because they got distribution, but then it never was distributed anywhere that I knew of. Now it looks like you can rent it on YouTube, on Prime, and on Fandango at home. I don't recommend doing that though. I was traveling at the time of being sent this screener, and so I watched it with a couple of friends. I was like, listen, I want to watch this. I gotta watch it for work. Like, do you want to watch it with me? Especially because one of my best friends was a huge fan of Shelley Duvall. And when my friends and I gave the movie a bad review, the person that sent the screener, they somehow tracked my friends down on Instagram, and like, yeah, I'm following them, and it wasn't a secret that I was visiting them. Like, maybe I had tagged them in posts at that point, but this person tracked them down and sent them DMs, or maybe sent one of my friends a DM and then commented on the other friend's Letterboxd review or something, and was like, this hasn't been released yet, like, how did you watch the movie? Which just was weird to me, because if you had the wherewithal to find them through my page or something, like to find them on Instagram, there just was no other way, then why don't you just ask me about it? Just absolute weirdo behavior from somebody involved with this film. And then I also was left with a sour taste in my mouth because my review on Letterboxd was pretty benign. Like, yeah, I mean, I only gave it 1.5 stars, so really bad, but I just said this kind of has to be seen to be believed. And for a while, it was the top review of that film on Letterboxd because not a lot of people have seen it. I have a decent following on Letterboxd, so it had maybe like 30 likes on it, but even so, it was at the top of all of the reviews for The Forest Hills. Now it's not there. You can scroll through literally every single review on The Forest Hills and it is gone. So I'm assuming also that this person that was very weirdly active on social media and like questioning people and how they saw the film must have like reported my review or something. thing, I can see no other explanation why a review that benign with no swear words, like nothing sexual, is just gone. I mean, you'll see it if you look up the movie and you're like following me, like I'm sure that it'll pop up. It's so strange, absolutely bizarre. I think that somebody else said it best. Genuinely insane ramblings. It's strange to think that someone would see the world as operating on any wavelength this film approaches. Serious outsider perspective on the human experience. And yes, I have quoted that before and I will continue to quote that. Beautiful. Let me just be very clear that if I'm sent a screener, I am under no obligation to like your film, to hype it up, to help you publicize. And it just seems like there are certain people involved with this production that could not hack it with the criticism. You made a bad, truly awful film, but it's okay. Just move on. I'm gonna go through like the next 30 of them rather quickly because we have a lot to get through. I just felt that deserved the time of day. One of the weirdest interactions that I have had with someone sending me a screener link, especially because, and another thing, I didn't do anything wrong. I did not send that screener link to anybody else. And if you have pride in your movie and you think that it's gonna get positive reviews, then it really can't hurt to have a couple more people watching it and giving you feedback. You send out a screener link to develop hype, right? But you just didn't get the response that you wanted. Weirdo. Also, it doesn't matter who this person is. I don't have any personal beef with them. That's like, I'm not gonna share their name. That's not what this is about. I just want to make an example out of this situation so that if anybody else tries it with me, that maybe they consider not. Hey, maybe don't. Okay, at number 67, we have The Platform 2. I think this is really one of the purest examples of a sequel that did not need to exist, and I'm not generally someone that says that. I always think, you know what, let's just see what you do. But it was just rehashed nonsense and extremely dull, which I think is the worst offense that a movie can have. At least The Forest Hills was like insane. At number 66, we have The Exorcism, and it's not dead last because Russell Crowe at least keeps me a little bit engaged. A good cast, but truly awful. I thought it would be like The Pope's Exorcist, where Russell Crowe brings a little bit more intrigue and makes it something that is not like every other exorcism movie ever made, but this one was. So yeah, we're gonna leave her in the past. At number 65, we have Night Swim. Just unbearably stupid, but it fell right in line with that first week of January horror release quality, so I can't even throw too much shade at it, and I might even watch it again just for the bit. Once we get to number 64 through 57, these are all 2-star films, so a little step above. At number 64, we have Afraid, a deeply stupid AI film with elements that are thrown in that just very explicitly make no sense. I don't know what the cast of this movie was doing there. I feel sorry for them, but it's okay. We live, we learn, we move on. I forgot to talk about my number 63 pick, which is honestly fine, but it's Starve Acre. At least Afraid was nuts. I feel like I might even rewatch Afraid. Starve Acre was quite dull, and also it was a huge Lamb ripoff. I was stoked about it for the cast, but they did not make it worthwhile at the end of the day. They really were given like nothing to do. And then there's just like a really cheap shock factor ending, and at that point it just didn't work for me. And I actually rented this one. I spent money on it, which I don't recommend doing. I think that's the only one I forgot to talk about. I'm sorry. Okay, bye. At number 62, we have Monster. This was a remake of The Boy Behind the Door, another movie that did not need a remake, did not need a sequel. And this was a remake that was, I think, an Indonesian film, and it was worse. Didn't do anything new with the material. In fact, I felt like they took the material and actually regressed it and made it much more generic. Just not the right move. They really pulled a Quarantine there. At number 61, we have Imaginary, and I couldn't even fully hate this movie because I thought that it had a lot of gall. A lot of gall to be so dumb. I've called a lot of these movies stupid. It's because they are. It was dumb, and that's okay, because sometimes the stupidity was fun, actually, with this one. I don't think that I'd be able to revisit it, though. At number 60, we have The Strangers Chapter 1. Just what were we doing there? Pure and simply, what were we doing there? I did actually give that movie a dedicated review, and I also did with Imaginary. I can't remember if I did with Night Swim. I don't think so. If I recall, at that time, it didn't feel worth it, and I probably was making this kind of content, so I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. At number 59, we have You'll Never Find Me, and this was just kind of a sad case of sometimes Shudder pumps out random fodder, just random stuff to pass the time, stuff that doesn't really stick with you thematically or spookily. It created a decent atmosphere. I don't think I regretted watching it. It just didn't really do anything. Same thing with number 58, Under Paris. This was one of the big shark movies that was released in 2024. It was a Netflix film, I think, and just overlong, trying to do too much where you don't need to do too much. I think The Meg has proven time and time again that we don't care about the rest of it, just give us the big shark. Granted, I do kind of respect some of the curveballs in the plot with Under Paris. It made it not a regrettable watch at the very least, so not one of the absolute worst of the year. The last 2-star film would be The Front Room, and that would simply just be because of one of the performances. Kathryn Hunter, I feel like, is not as beloved as she should be. She also was in Megalopolis. She's a pretty consistent working actor though, so I wouldn't be surprised if those were not her only 2 films this year. I do think her performance in The Front Room was a lot more impressive than in Megalopolis. She was given a lot more to do, but mostly she just was given the task of being the most annoying person you've ever met. She basically just was like one giant baby that her son and her daughter-in-law then had to take care of. Super annoying. Not a good viewing experience. I was having a terrible time. Never gonna be revisiting that one again. No thanks. Now getting into our 2.5-star films. Starting at number 56, we have Daddy's Head. Once again, just Shudder nonsense. Shudder will usually throw out like 1 or 2 absolute bangers in a year, and then the rest of it is just kind of like, okay, you needed something to put out this quarter. I see you, I hear you, and that's fine. I actually really liked the first act of this one, and I thought the performances were great. I just thought that it was the poor man's Hereditary, really, at the end of the day. Number 55, we have Never Let Go. Once again, a good performance by Halle Berry. Those 2 boys also were fantastic. The movie is just dull. It just didn't have really anything to latch onto in terms of interest for me, unfortunately. Same thing with number 54, Subservience. Megan Fox, I really do hear her when she speaks about her insecurities and everything. She is someone that was under the microscope and deemed as this sex symbol from such a young age. And so I don't even want to imagine what that does to a person psychologically. What I am seeing right now is that even as she is starting to approach middle age, she still seems to be really stuck in that identity of being the hot girl, to the point where now this seems like the ultimate sort of peak of that, where she is literally playing a sex doll. And the movie does not unpack that whatsoever. It's a very, very shallow film. It's just Megan, but R-rated. At number 53, we have Apartment 7A. This Rosemary's Baby prequel just was dull in every single aspect, from the coloring to majority of the performances to the writing to just everything. I really was hoping that because dance was involved that I would feel a little bit more akin to like Suspiria or something, that maybe they would throw in more of a psychedelic element, give it a little bit more of like a 60s feel, but no. Again, Paramount, what are we doing? I also have qualms with Netflix because at number 52, we have Don't Move. Just dull. Again, my 2.5-star films, majority of these are just dull. They maybe had a good concept, or there are good performances, or there's something that's all right about it, but ultimately just fell totally flat. And that's Don't Move. I don't have anything else to say. Number 50 is Sting, which I kinda enjoyed this movie. I do love a good giant spider moment. It just didn't give me anything else though. It was kind of giving Disney Channel original, which was odd. The tone didn't really make sense to me. Now, at number 50, we have Tarot, and I did give this one 2.5 stars, but I also gave it a heart because I did enjoy it. This is one of those movies where it's not so bad that it's so good, on the same level as like The Bye Bye Man. That is just the standard for me, okay? But it was funny. I enjoyed the cast, and it was very bad. It's a movie that I think I would probably show to my children once they hit like age 11 or 12. I think it's gonna be really good gateway horror, you know? It's stupid to the point where I can enjoy it, and probably a good level that it might scare a 10-year-old. It's a good little sweet spot that I can appreciate, and if you can't, then it sucks to suck. At number 49, we have Monster Mash. This was directed by friend Jose Prendis. This was actually the first of his premieres that I attended. It's where I met Harry Manfredini. A little 2024 highlight there. According to Jose, that movie almost killed him, and you can kind of tell. Majority of it is just dialogue. They had 6 days to shoot it, and their lead actor, Dracula, contracted contracted COVID, so they had to shoot scenes without him where there would be dialogue with him, and then he had to come back and shoot those by himself. So a lot of the technical aspects of this movie are just a little bit awkward. Also, the asylum forced him to write in like a heavy CGI over-the-top dumb ending that he did not co-sign. So a lot about that movie just did not go according to plan, but it made it up this far because it is hilarious, like genuinely. So don't discount it. At number 48, we have Festival of the Living Dead. The Soska sisters actually brought us this one, a new iteration of the Night of the Living Dead franchise, and it was kind of fun. I just really needed it to be a lot more over the top. It ultimately just fell flat when I think that they had a good thing going in the first act. Rather than continuing to develop any characters and let us remain latched onto them, everybody just kind of like dispersed, so we no longer got any of that friendship group chemistry that was so fun in the first act. And yeah, then it just kind of became like a boring any old other zombie movie. At number 47, we have Out of Darkness. This one only made it up so high because caveman horror just is something that I hadn't seen before. But that one, the ending was such BS. Like, I don't understand how you have such a unique concept to the point where the actors have all had to learn this prehistoric language, but then the ending and the whole theme and the message is going to be so generic. And most of the horror is going to be so generic. There were some moments that were really well crafted, and then it just all fell apart. I was very annoyed. But that's going to do it for all of our 2.5-star films. It's time for our 3-star films, the true middle of the roaders here. But most of these had some other sort of element that made them more worth watching. At number 46, we have In a Violent Nature. I just wasn't a big fan. It was Friday the 13th, but not as good. It felt like a video game, but I wasn't in control, so boo. And the whole selling element of it, that it all takes place in the perspective of the killer, is just not true. And when it does, he's just walking around. It's just clomp, 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 clomp. So whatever. At number 45, we have Maxine. Super underwhelming conclusion to that trilogy. I can't talk about it anymore. I gave it a solo review, so if you want more thoughts, you can go and find them. At number 44, we have Humane. This was done by Caitlin Cronenberg. Really liked the cast, really liked the performances, but ultimately I felt that it was a unique concept gone to waste because it just felt like the filmmaker didn't really have anything to say. I think it was told from the wrong point of view. I think it should have taken a more working class angle, but that's just me. At number 43, we have The Coffee Table, which I think had some really, really top tier performances. And for a very limited location and obviously a very small budget, it was a well done film. I just felt that it was bleak for bleak's sake, and when the movie ultimately had nothing up its sleeve besides the opening surprise, I was let down. At number 42, we have Monster Summer. This is a movie that I just knew that I would have enjoyed if I was like 6 years old, and so my inner child was fairly happy. And I'm a sucker for Mason Thames. I really like him. At number 41, I have Woman of the Hour, which I don't think would count as a horror film, but it is a thriller, and there is a body count, so I was like, whatever. Once again, just underwhelming. I think the most interesting element of the movie was the game show, and I wish that that was expanded on more. I thought the focus of that movie just was all over the place, and so I was left with kind of a weird taste in my mouth. At number 40, we have Mr. Crockett. I thought this one was pretty fun, but it has a similar problem where I just felt like the focus was not right. I also wasn't totally sold by the performance of Mr. Crockett. I don't know if this whole movie would have clicked for me more if it was a different actor or something. I don't know. At number 39, surprisingly, I have Time Cut. This sometimes when I can just sit there and I don't have to move a single muscle in my brain, I can just relax and go, my brain is off. This is nice. Then I enjoy it. Sue me. It wasn't good. It obviously is not very good, but it was cute. I just thought it was cute. Number 38, we have Night Bitch. I just really enjoyed the performance of Amy Adams, but this one, again, was also kind of all over the place. They really should have leaned more into the body horror elements. I was very much let down by the level of grossness in the film. They started to take it there and then abruptly stopped, and then all of a sudden she's turning into a dog. I was hoping for more of a werewolf thing, but otherwise its messaging was pretty good. At number 37, Hold Your Breath. This one I felt was slightly underrated from the year. before. I have never seen a horror movie use dust as a horror element, and also Sarah Paulson's performance was sublime. I wasn't really in the mood for a period piece as bleak as that day, I suppose, and it's not one that I could see myself revisiting, but it was worth the watch. I don't have regrets about that. At number 36, stop motion thematically resonated with me very deeply. Also, the practical effects and the stop motion, of course, was fantastic, but something else was missing for me with that one. That's typically what happens with 3-star films. I'm like, oh, you're almost there, but just not quite. Like, something's wrong. I felt all the other elements of the movie were kinda lacking, except the acting. Acting was also good. Same thing with number 35, Abigail. I was so let down by this one, but absolutely not by the acting. It felt way too similar to Ready or Not, and also pretty similar to Scream. I just wish that the Radio Silence guys would start to, like, actually branch out a bit. And also the marketing totally flopped for this one. I know that it was like a whole debate, and I'm like, how is this a debate? People are like, no, you can't, it's not a spoiler, it's just part of the setup. My dudes, it's not revealed until 45 minutes into the movie that little girl is a vampire. How on earth is that part of the setup? 45 minutes into the movie? No, that's not part of the setup. Miss me with that. Miss me with that. Also, the fake teeth looked awful. It looked like Spirit Halloween vampire teeth. I don't know what was going on with the makeup there. Anyway, at number 34, we have I Saw the TV Glow, which this one just did not hit for me. I had some of my friends telling me that they were sobbing, that it was like the deepest movie they saw all year. And like, I saw the intention there. It just was something that didn't connect for me, which usually I don't have to explicitly relate to something. If it connects to any part of the truth of the human experience, I will probably cry, and I just didn't. Like, I felt very much disconnected from it. Super interesting film. I hope that it does well in the awards circuit or continues to do well, but just not one for me. At number 33, we have Cuckoo. Dan Stevens, oh, Captain, my Captain. He really saved this movie for me, and Hunter Schafer was also the beating heart of this film. I think Cuckoo actually did bring a tear to my eye, because I'm a person who is adopted, and I have a sister, so elements of this plot were deeply relatable to me. I thought the twists were also really good, but ultimately, the movie was all over the place, and I just felt like there were a lot of open plot threads that never got properly shut. A lot of random characters that got thrown in there that didn't need to be there. I was overall confused. Like, that was the main emotion that I was left with from Cuckoo. But it's time to get into the 3.5-star films, so we're jumping above in quality yet again. At number 32, we have Azrael. I will enjoy almost any horror movie that Samara Weaving does, as it turns out. I just felt like this one wasn't really breaking the mold on anything. Interesting concepts, interesting themes, but I just wasn't super interested because I felt like I'd seen them done better before. Also, they overdo it with one of the horror elements to the point where it's not really effective by the end of the movie for me anymore, but I would still recommend it if you missed that one. 31, Baghead. This one felt like it was on a similar level to the Bye Bye Man, actually, of being so bad that it was good. Slightly more earnest than the Bye Bye Man, but it was truly ridiculous. Nobody liked this movie. I was like the only person that did, and it's not for good reasons, but even if I enjoy something ironically, I still enjoyed it. So if you have similar taste to me, I think you should check it out. At number 30, we have Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and I count this as like gateway horror. Once again, I felt a little bit on my island with this one because I actually enjoyed it a lot more than Ghostbusters Afterlife. I was annoyed at the fact that it was only queer coded and not actually explicitly queer, but I could tell that like the underlying element of gay was there. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Had that going for it, kind of. And then also, I found that one just to be a lot more funny than Afterlife. Don't know why. I don't know. Maybe when I rewatch it, I'll be like, what was I thinking? But who cares? At number 29, I have VHS, and particularly the short Stowaway. Kate Siegel is going to be a force to be reckoned with. I hope that she gets more projects greenlit for her to direct, because that was far and away the best short of that entire anthology. It literally is not even close. She is the reason why that movie made it up this high on my list. Otherwise, it would have been way more middle tier. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I tend to not be super crazy about the VHS movies, but this one I thought was better than most. I also have to interject yet again to let you know that I'm gonna be starring alongside Bix Krieger from this movie. She was in the Live and Let Die segment, and we have a movie coming out either this June or July. We shot it in November, and I am so stoked for you to see it, and I'm gonna remind you about it all year long until it comes. She is lovely, by the way. Okay, bye, sorry. At number 28, we have Carnage for Christmas, and do check out my December recap if you want my full review on this one. I spoke ad nauseum about Alice Mayo McKay. She's a very, very, very young and also very exciting new horror director. Definitely check out Carnage for Christmas and her other stuff if you haven't already. I am slacking on the other stuff, but I'm gonna get caught up this year. At number 27, we have Trap. Just a good, fun time. Josh Hartnett, God love ya. At number 26, similarly, we have Beetlejuice. I actually like this one more than the original because I've never been a super big fan of the original. Which if you're new here, yes, that is a little bit weird because I am a big Tim Burton girly. Always have been since I was, yay big. I just thought the new one was funnier. It was more catered to my type of humor. I love that we are bringing back endless bits instead of having an actual plot. I actually am a proponent of that. Danny Elfman back composing for it. Like, yeah, I ate it up. At number 25, we have Smile 2. Again, much like Trap, I loved the music. Love that we got two big pop icons in horror in 2024. And might I just say, overall, the quality of horror films in 2024 compared to 2023, we were eating good. It felt kind of reminiscent of 2022. Because in 2022, I think I ranked like 80 films, and this year we had kind of a similar amount. And most of these movies I actually saw in theaters. A lot of them are streaming, but if I remember to, I'll do a count at the end of how many of these were actually theatrical releases. I think we might be so fucking back. At number 24, we have Nosferatu, and I know that there will be recency bias with this, and also I have learned, because I've recently spoken a lot about Nosferatu, that a lot of Robert Eggers fans are annoying as hell. Guys, let's reflect. Let's look inward on that, because what are we doing? Now, I am a Robert Eggers fan, and yes, I am also annoying, but I have a life, so I am not in people's comment section getting up their ass if they didn't love a movie as much as they did. So yes, I'm annoying, but I don't engage in loser behavior like that. In my review, I said that I liked the movie. I gave it 3.5 stars. That's pretty good for me. There just was a lot of nuance to unpack about the things that I didn't like. But people were up my whole asshole about, oh, if you didn't love it, you didn't understand it, maybe you're just a simpleton, blah, blah, blah. If that's the case, why do people listen to me when I talk about movies and not you? I can't. I'm not gonna keep talking about that right now because I think that I probably will be going to rewatch that movie in theaters this month, so we might have to talk about it yet again. Anyway, at number 23, we have A Quiet Place Day One, another 3.5 star film. This one I had to put above the rest though because Lupita Nyong'o's performance, I spoke about her with The Wild Robot in Friday's video. She touches me. She hits something in my soul. It's one of my favorite performances that she's ever given, and it's right up there, honestly, for me with Red from Us. This just happened to be on the opposite end of the spectrum, I think, of her abilities. She and Joseph Quinn, which one of them was the beating heart? I don't know. They're kind of neck and neck for me. They both made me very emotional in the film, and it was a better entry than I was expecting. I liked it more than A Quiet Place 2, actually. That does it for the 3.5 star category, though. Now we move on to the 4 star category. At number 22, we have Heretics. I just spoke about this one yet again in my December recap, so check that out for a full review. I also interviewed director Jose Prendes. He also did Monster Mash, and I interviewed the cast, so that is up on my channel for your viewing pleasure. TLDR, I just really love the cast chemistry in that one, and I had a lot of fun watching them. At number 21, we have The Watchers, the directorial debut, I think, of one of M. Night Shyamalan's daughters. This one got a lot of hate, and for some reasons that I can understand, yes, because this movie, the fantasy horror elements of it and stuff, I was surprised to see how much it catered to me personally. I didn't know that I was so much of a fantasy horror girly, but I guess that tracks because I was obsessed with Harry Potter as a kid, and that very much is fantasy horror. Gateway horror at the very least. Are you kidding me? The basilisk, the Aragog, the giant spider. And I also just really like Dakota Johnson's performance. Georgina Campbell is there. The performances all around I really enjoyed. And the twists, I didn't see them coming. She's kind of following in her father's footsteps with the storytelling, and I'm here for that. At number 20, we have Milk and Cereal, and this actually was a YouTube horror movie, so if you haven't heard of it, you need to check it out. It's found footage done so unbelievably well. The characters are sort of, I think, a riff on like the Paul brothers and pranking content on YouTube. It's so good. It will throw you for a loop. You must check it out. You must if you haven't already. At number 19, we have Immaculate. I didn't know that Sydney Sweeney had this kind of a performance in her. And granted, throughout the first act, it is quite wooden, but that last shot, I mean, she sold us all on that, right? I'm not alone in that. Unfortunately, though, I did want to see the baby. I would like to see the baby. Also, I saw that one before I saw The First Omen, so if I had seen The First Omen before that, I don't know if I would have liked it as much, but hey, it was a 4-star for me at the time. At number 18, we have Late Night with the Devil, one of the most controversial horror movies of the year as it turned out, and with good reason, but if you want to see me unpack all of that, I did do kind of a solo review for that one. That one I think I did a combined review with Immaculate, actually. I'm just not the type of person to discount the work of all the other artists on a film when there's only like one problematic person or one problematic element. Unfortunately, sometimes problematic people keep the lights on for hundreds of working class families that get employed on their films. That was a conversation that I feel like lost a lot of nuance, and I don't know if my opinion has changed since I did that review. My opinions on AI have absolutely not changed at all. Can understand and respect if you were someone that boycotted the film, and I also still respect you if you didn't boycott the film, believe it or not. I think the message came across clear enough with the vitriolic reaction to the movie. Whoa, that was a crazy time, and now AI, I feel like, is just inching its way further and further into the industry. Not great. Anyway, that's depressing. At number 17, we have Long Legs. Yeah, this one I feel like is gonna be in a lot of people's top 10. It just didn't blow my ass out of the water. I liked it very much. I thought it was very good. I thought that on all technical levels it was great. I thought Micah Monroe was fantastic. As I've gotten further away from it, I just don't think that I agree with Nicolas Cage's decisions. The more I've thought about it, I'm just like, what was he doing there? Did he think that he was acting in an entirely different movie than he was actually cast in? I don't know. Except for the interview scene when he is sitting across the table from Micah Monroe and they're playing off of each other, that was truly chilling, and I was like, okay, he wasn't miscast. But the rest of it is a little bit of a tough pill to swallow for me. At number 16, I literally don't even care if you're mad. I have Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. I also have a signed poster up there from going to the premiere. I had so much fun. They actually listened to all of the criticisms from the first movie, and they really self-reflected, and they were like, you know what? We did make something really stupid. Let's lean into that. And boy, did they. And with the added characters, there just were more layers of fun. It was so much gorier. Just great kill sequences. My favorite scene has definitely got to be the rave scene. There was a lot of gore in that warehouse, and believe it or not, I did cheer. I started a cheer in the theater when Winnie walked out in that scene. Just a good time. Again, I don't know, maybe on a rewatch I'll be like, what was I thinking? But it's time to get into the top 15. So at number 15 we have It's What's Inside. This one I might have put up a little bit higher if it was more of a true horror movie. I don't really know why it's listed as such. It's more of a dramedy. There aren't really horror elements in it. It depends what you classify as horror, I think. It's definitely psychological, so I'll give it that. Loved it. Particularly loved the editing, and I loved the acting. I just thought that it was such a clever concept. I can't believe that it hasn't been done a million times before. I am super excited to see more from that filmmaking team. Number 14, so shockingly, we have Speak No Evil. This was probably the biggest surprise of the year. This one I gave a dedicated review over on the Patreon. Oh, and I didn't mention for Long Legs, of course, that got a dedicated review on this channel as well. James McAvoy really carried, but Mackenzie Davis was also fantastic. I loved everyone in the movie. Scoot McNairy, I want him in more horror. I just can't even believe that I'm gonna tell you right now that I enjoyed an American remake more than the original Danish film, but here we are. At number 13, we have Mads. This was a super fun ride. A movie that not only was trying to sell the effect of entirely being done in a oneer, but it was actually shot in a oneer, and it's a subgenre that I thought was so tired, but then here the French come and they're like, actually, no. So much respect to the filmmaking of this one, and also the performances. Couldn't help but gush about them when I initially talked about this film. Definitely try to see this one if you haven't already. Also, actually, my number 13, 12, and 11 are all Shudder films. At number 12, we have Infested. This is without a doubt the best spider movie I've ever seen in my life, and that's coming from someone that grew up loving arachnophobia. That was one of my favorite movies as a kid, oddly. Infested infected me with pure dread. Holy God. And is this movie gross at times? This director is doing the next Evil Dead movie, and all I can say is that we are in good hands. At number 11, we have Oddity, and I actually caught this one in theaters because sometimes IFC Midnight Films will have like really late night showings and I have to drive to the next town over to see them, and for this one, it was worth it. Oh my god, this movie knew how to craft an atmosphere. I actually was scared. That almost never happens. I think that's the first time I've said that about a single movie on this list, because this is my job. I watch horror movies all the time. I have since I was a kid. It's hard to scare me now, and this movie really did. It also just was so unexpected, the twists and turns that we took. I do wish that it stuck the landing just a little bit more, but the final shot, hilarious. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. I really had a blast with it. I now own it on Blu-ray, thankfully. Definitely one of the most underrated releases of the year. Now getting into my top 10. This was really hard because I almost put Oddity above my number 10, but that would be Lisa Frankenstein, and Lisa Frankenstein just was more catered to me. It just was more fun. You know Lisa Frankenstein, like the girls that get it, we had a great time. I also gave that one a dedicated review on this channel, and I did complain that like I didn't feel totally seen by Lisa, who was supposed to be a real weird girl, but it just felt a little bit tame. It felt a little bit pulled back. I don't know, because it was written by Diablo Cody, who gave us Jennifer's Body. Then that movie definitely really is for the weird girls, but I don't know if there just was a little bit of timidness there because of the reception of Jennifer's Body. Lisa Frankenstein, I think, is going to be the same thing, because it was a little bit of a flop, but the girls loved it. Like, we loved it, and it will be claimed as a cult classic. Anyway, on to number 9, we have Terrifier 3, and by the way, we're still in the 4-star category. Terrifier 3, I loved it. I wasn't really even crazy about the first 2 Terrifier films. I couldn't even make it through All Hallows Eve. I thought that was so bad, but Terrifier 3, loved. Lauren Lavera, love. The gore, love. The fact that they're getting so wacky with it and bringing in like demonic stuff and like just really convoluting the plot, I am actually here for it. So at number 8, we have The First Omen. Arkasha Stevenson, I hope she gets all the money. I hope she gets all her scripts greenlit. If there is only one Arkasha Stevenson fan left on this earth, it is me. I want nothing but the best for her. And this movie really did channel Isabella Adjani. I don't know if there's another movie in the history of cinema that has done it since Possession. This one did. Was just so impressed all around with The First Omen. I can't remember why I only give it 4 stars and not higher. I wonder if that would go up on a rewatch. We'll see. I have 2 movies that I gave 4.5 stars. Up first at number 7, we have Heretic. I really enjoyed this. I love a good theory craft. I love a good movie that feels like a play but is still engaging enough to feel cinematic. It just had so much going for it. And yeah, it did kind of lose me in the 3rd act. It surely did. But for the most part, I'm just so swept up in the performances. I give this one a dedicated review, and I also rewatched it in theaters before it left, so I've talked about it enough. At number 6, we have Strange Darling. And yes, this is more of a thriller than a horror, sure. And yes, is it kind of annoying and pretentious to announce via a title card at the beginning of the film that it was shot on 35mm? Yeah, I saw a review that was like, oh, you shot on 35mm? Should we throw you a party? Should we invite Quentin Tarantino? I thought that was kind of mean, but I do feel like we do need to poke fun at that a little bit, because it is a little, let's not do that. But I didn't care. Like, I'm not gonna get hung up on something like that, something that small, when the movie is that good. The only reason why it's not in my top 5 or my top 3 is because there are 5 horror films from 2024 that I gave a perfect rating to. That's the only reason. And Kyle Gallner, oh, Captain, my Captain. Willa Fitzgerald, I think, is the ultimate standout from the movie, but Kyle Gallner, I just cannot sing my praises enough about this man. He stays within the genre, so obviously I'm biased. I love him for that. But he stays doing these independent, really interesting projects. Like, he does not say yes to a bad script. Sometimes his agent does, and I have called them out for that, but Strange Darling was not one of them. Now, in my top 5, I've already spoken a lot about these movies, so I don't think I need to get hung up here. At number 5, I have The Devil's Bath. I just talked about this in my December recap. Perfect film. That movie is everything I hate about the world, and I love it. At number 4, I put Your Monster, which I think it also made number 4 on my non-horror list. Did I put it on my non-horror list too? Oh my god. I did, and it surely did. It's at number 4 on both lists, because I didn't know which list to put it on. It's not really horror, but there's a monster, there's some gore at some points, and also did I just want to sing the praises of Melissa Barrera a little bit more? Yes. Yeah, duh. A perfect film. Already just talked about that. So at number 3, I have Y2K, another perfect perfect film. I gave that one a dedicated review on my channel, you already know, and it has like a 2.9 or something on Letterboxd. I think that y'all are cracked. I think that it is for a very specific audience, and that audience is me, and you don't get it. Now, number 2 and 1, actually, I gave both of these dedicated reviews as well, so you can go back and you can bask in more of my words if you so desire. But at number 2, we have Alien Romulus. Oh, and you should also watch the live ranking of the Alien franchise that I did with my dad, because I talked about it even more there, and I feel like I've like been talking about it kind of throughout the year. Just a good, solid horror film, mama. Yeah, it doesn't branch out too far from things that we've seen from the franchise already, but it had the freak shit from Alien Resurrection, love. It had the quiet, measured atmosphere sometimes from the original Alien. It had the great action from Aliens. It just combined so much of what was good about the franchise. Like, perfect film. Listen, I understand the qualms with the CGI monstrosity resurrecting a dead actor. Like, I understand that. That just was not an egregious enough element to sway my enjoyment personally. And I feel pretty lucky about that, honestly, because the Alien fandom, ooh, they kind of got sticks up their butts, and it seems like a lot of people let just that one thing ruin like their entire experience of the movie. I think that's crazy. But anyway, my number 1 horror movie of the year, to literally no one's surprise, and I am not quirky and I'm not different for this, which sucks, but that will be The Substance. Yeah, with good reason. Yeah, history is gonna look on The Substance and it's gonna say that it's a body horror essential. It paved its way into horror history and into our hearts. I'm never gonna forget The Substance. It's gonna remain in pop culture, I think, for a very, very, very long time. It's gonna be right there in conversation with movies like The Fly. Coralie Fargeau said, "I hate what society has done to my brain and the way that it makes me see my own body, so guess what? Blah." That was her making The Substance. That was my impression of her making The Substance. So yeah, I feel like enough said. That was my ranking of every horror release that I watched in 2024. I know that I missed a good little handful, but the ones that I missed, it was kind of intentional. I did try to watch Eczema, but I just like wasn't in the mood, so I didn't give that one a full viewing. I've heard that it's really good, and so I need to give it another try. But majority of the other stuff was like Seven Cemeteries, Crackoon, Crazy House, stuff that generally just wasn't critically well received or wasn't easily accessible to me. I also never watched Salem's Lot because I haven't had Max in a while, and I just didn't feel inspired to watch that film. Nobody really was that excited about it. So I know that I missed a handful, mostly streaming. Oh yes, right, I was gonna count and see how many of these were theatrical releases. 40 of the 70 movies that I spoke about today, I watched in theaters personally. So could have been more that might have had limited releases and stuff that I just didn't catch. That's a really good amount. I'm pretty proud of that. Also because like a good amount of these were Shudder releases, and I take pride in Shudder. They're really doing good work. Overall, just a really good year for horror. I was very impressed with 2024. I hope that that keeps on rolling in 2025. Once again, let me know what I missed, but also let me know at least like your top 10. I am so curious to see everyone's rankings, and I'm gonna predict that Nosferatu is gonna be pretty close to the top of a lot of them, if not only because of recency bias. Like, if somebody is watching this from way in the future, I'm gonna guess that my number 1 is not unique because I am neither quirky nor different nor interesting. I think that my other 4 in the top 5, though, Romulus, Y2K, Your Monster, Devil's Bath, I don't think those are going to be in most people's top 5. I feel like Terrifier 3 is going to be a really popular one, The First Omen for sure. Longlegs, definitely. Just let me know, let me know if I'm right about that. Throw your top 10 in the comments below. If you want more ranking content from me, I also, like I mentioned, just ranked all the non-horror movies of the year on my second channel. I also talk a lot about physical media over there. I post travel content, spooky vlogs, just all the fun stuff that doesn't end up on this channel goes over there. I also have bonus reviews and bonus podcast episodes over on my Patreon, so join that. You get a bonus video every single week depending on which tier you join. More than anything, I just hope that you enjoyed this video, that you'll keep rocking with me in 2025, and that I see you in the next one. Bye!